We need to talk about AI, or as Apple are calling it, Apple Intelligence. It was set to revolutionize Siri. Hey Siri, what month was it last month?
It's Saturday, September 6th, 2025.
That's just today's date. Siri is not great, but Apple had got a master plan. They were coming out with Apple Intelligence, set to be similar to ChatGPT, but work with Siri and allow you to integrate with all of your apps. But I think the reason Apple Intelligence has failed comes down to three distinct things, and nobody is talking about all three. AI is most definitely not easy to do. There are quite a lot of things that you've got to do in order to build them. So I've got a graph here, as you can see, of OpenAI, Google, Meta, and Apple. And we're going to talk about each one of the three things and fill it in for each of these companies because they're all doing AI slightly differently. So let's start with the obvious one, which is compute. You've got to train the model. How do you train the model? In order for OpenAI to train their model, they're actually using Microsoft. They've got a lot of their data stored there. And actually, Microsoft have got a partnership with OpenAI. So they want to be able to help OpenAI use their compute. That's where they're getting their compute from. And Google are very much similar. They've got their own data centers with GCP or Google Compute Cloud. And they can just run their own models there. There's not much external use needed. And actually, Meta are very similar. They've got their own data centers like Google, and they're running it on their own stuff. Apple, in this case, they don't really have their own servers, but they do have some server banks. They lease a lot of stuff from Google and AWS. And actually, that's where they're running a lot of their compute to train their models. They have got some data centers of their own, but I think a lot of their training is happening in GCP and AWS. But running the models, we'll get back to that because they're not running any of their models in their compute. You're probably thinking, why does the location where they're training the model actually matter? And well, it matters because OpenAI, Google and Meta, they've got more control over where they're training those models. They own the compute they're running on, and it's relatively modern compute. Google are coming out with their own chips, and that matters because Apple, though they've got loads of money, they don't own any of this dedicated hardware, so they can't customize it or use their own chips. But Apple's M series chips, they're ones that they're in the Macs right now, are actually some of the best chips to run AI on because they're ARM and they're relatively low power efficient. They're great at AI. But as far as I'm aware, there are no massive data centers full of Apple's M series devices. I'm sure Apple could do that, but a lot of the stuff that they're using in their data centers is actually quite dated. The next thing we need to talk about is where they're actually running their models. So they've trained them in these relevant clouds, but where are they running them? For a lot of these models, especially OpenAI and Google's models, their runtime is the same. So OpenAI, well, they're just running their models back in the same compute as where they were training it back in Microsoft, and then making it available to you through something like chatgpt.com or API access, and you'll be fully familiar with that. You've all used it. Google, well, they're just running the same thing. They're running it in GCP, but they're making it feel more personalized by giving you direct access from your mobile device or from their Gemini website. This works well for them because they've got all these data centers to run all this stuff on. But Meta, they're doing something slightly different. All of their models, well, they're open. So they let you run them on your own hardware. So essentially they're giving you the model. They give you a variety of sizes of model, whether it be like 2 gigabytes or 200 gigabytes, that you can run at home. And this really matters and is really good because it allows them to build these different models and then not have the constant cost of running the models and still be in the AI game. So what are Apple trying to do? Well, Apple want to make private models, a bit like OpenAI and Google's models, but they want to run them on device. So what do I mean by this? What is a private model on device? So essentially, they want to run the model on your iPhone. So in my pocket here, I've got an iPhone, and on this device, I'm going to have the model. I'm not going to connect to some remote model in their cloud. They are talking about private cloud compute, which is where they run the models on their servers. But most of the models are going to run on device. And that, I think, is part of their limiting factors. You can build a model. And if you're not very good and you're new to this, like Apple are and building a first model, you can build a relatively not great model. And that model will run fine on a lot of hardware. It might not be efficient, it might not be fast, but it'll work fine if you've got a lot of compute to throw at it. But an iPhone, it's got maybe 8 to 16 gigabytes of data, and you can't throw a lot of compute at it. It's already in here, and everybody who's got an iPhone, it's got a fixed amount. So you've got to make a model that's small enough, like it fits into this ball that's small enough to sit on the user's device and actually still be relatively good. And I think this is one of the key issues, and it goes along with issue number 3. So what is issue number 3? I've hinted at it enough, and it is data. You need data. To be able to train these models, they have to know a lot about the world around them. If we think of like OpenAI, where did OpenAI get all their data? OpenAI got all of their data from scraping the web. This was before a lot of web blocking had been implemented, and now websites, they're trying to block AI from scraping their website. Where does Google get their data? They actually have all of their data. They have services like YouTube, Gmail, Google Docs, all those advertising platforms. They're all generating data for Google that they can use to train these models. And Meta, well, they're training their data from Instagram and Facebook. We've posted a lot of content there. I do the occasional post there, so go follow me if you want to. But think of all the content that's been uploaded to Instagram and Facebook, all of the communications, all of that, all of your DMs. They can kind of use all of that stuff. They've got access to it, and they can train their model from that. Apple, on the other hand, this is their biggest problem, and I think this is why Siri has not improved one bit since it came out in 2011. So where do Apple get their data? Well, they are a privacy-first company. They claim that all of your things that you upload to their services on iCloud are encrypted end-to-end, and they can't access them, whether that be your messages, your photos, or whatever. They're privacy-first, so that doesn't give them any data. They don't do any tracking. They don't even own their own search engine. They outsource that to Google for the millions and billions that Google want to pay for that. This results in Apple essentially having no data at all. They haven't got any data to train their models on. And that's why they're failing. They're trying to be revolutionary in so many ways. Here are 3 clear ways where Apple are trying to innovate. They're trying to run the models on device. They don't want to host them in their servers. They're not building a chatbot. Everybody who builds AI has started with a chatbot, and there's a reason for it. It helps you train and build a better model. You gain data to look at and analyze, and you can build off of that. And they want to be privacy first. They want to run it on device, no access to your data, and even when it goes to the server, they're not going to do any training or look at and analyze that data. It's all going to be privacy first. And this is why Apple are losing at the AI battle, because they just don't have the data. And it's very fascinating to think, as somebody who's trying to build their own model at home, it's really difficult. It doesn't matter what compute you've got, you need good quality data, and they don't have any of it. And I'm surprised nobody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about how it fails in one way or another, but nobody is talking about the fact that it's failing because they don't have the data. They weren't first to the race. They're somewhat last. With AI, you need to have been first. OpenAI, they were generating GPT-1 back before any of us have even heard the words AI. And that's what's resulted in them being kind of one of the leaders in AI. But anyway, I just thought this was quite interesting. I wanted to talk to you about AI. There will be a video coming about me making my own AI model at some point. But until then, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.